I'm Brian Christner, and this is The Byte, a bite-sized podcast about containers, cloud, and tech.
Welcome back to The Byte, episode number 61. In this episode, we are going to talk about Oh My Zsh, or Oh My Zsh Shell. It's about turbocharging your terminal. So if you're using Linux, Mac, or even Windows with a Windows subsystem for Linux, you can take advantage of Zsh Shell. Zsh Shell is now the default within Mac. Let's see, since 2019, Catalina now ships with Zsh Shell as the default shell. Previously, it was Bash, and now they've incorporated Zsh Shell as the standard shell for Mac. So it has a lot of support behind the product, and it's growing quite well as an ecosystem. Additionally, Zsh Shell is an extension of the Bourne Shell, if you know it. So shell, also from other shells like Korn Shell and tsch shell. So it takes a lot of the features from all these different shells, kind of incorporates it into one shell. Some of the advantages are it has a ton of features already. It incorporates a lot of the other shells, like I mentioned. And it's an open source community effort, which builds a framework around Zsh Shell. So the Oh My Zsh Shell is a framework that makes it easier to manage. So you can add plugins, you can add themes, you can add all sorts of things to the shell. Now let's take a look quickly at what this looks like. And here we go. Here is Zsh Shell in action. So I actually have Zsh Shell running, and I have a couple plugins. So I have Docker, I have Git, I have OS X, and I believe I have VS Code as well. So I can actually launch VS Code directly from my terminal. Now, what's really cool, you see here's a Git repository I'm in, and you can see ls, and if I want to cd, you can actually tab through the different directories, go to Grafana, for example, and you see which branch I'm in. So it shows you a lot of cool things. It also does basically command completion. So you can see Docker logs was my last command. So if I tab to the end, you can then see it just auto completes my commands for me. Commands from bash history. So from your history that you're using, which is really cool because many times when you're running commands, you don't want to retype a super long command. So it's just really helpful to just grab it from your history and rerun it again. And especially cool when you're just typing it and you just see the different variations coming up. Additionally, for example, Docker images, I can do a tab and I can then tab through the different images available. So, the integrations with the different plugins is really cool. You can also let's see, code dot, and I can start Visual Studio Code. It actually starts my other browser over here, but you can see, so I can launch code directly from it. So, there's features that are really quite clever with Oh My Shell. Additionally, you can skin the Zsh Shell however you like. So this portion of it right here, so Docker Traffic Prometheus, it actually shows you that you can change the look and feel of how your command line looks and color coordinated accordingly. It's something that I really quite like because it saves a lot of time. It brings you a totally different dimension of using your shell. It makes you feel like a superpower user. But as Ben Parker says in Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. So it gives you a lot more flexibility. It auto completion. I don't know how many people came up after talks I've done and asked me, hey, how did you do all that auto completion? What was that stuff running in the background? So a lot of people ask me about what shell I'm running, which is quite cool. And it just helps quite a bit with productivity because it just, like tab completion and stuff like this of like Git or Docker, it just really saves a ton in your workflow. If you're using Visual Studio Code, it also works within Visual Studio Code. So these same great tools will work within the command prompt of Visual Studio Code, which is great. And yeah, it has a huge community, has tons of plugins. The plugins, anything from programming languages to, actually tools. So like Visual Studio Code, you can launch Sublime, you can launch different editors. You can actually, integrate with Python and Java and different things like that. So it actually has some quick shortcuts through that as well. I would really I would recommend you giving it a try. Oh My Zsh is the website, and it's really cool. If you have a Mac, you already have Z Shell installed, so this is just a framework on top of it. If you're Linux, it's very easy to install and get up and running quite quickly. So give it a try. That's all for episode number 61, Oh My Zsh, or Oh My Z Shell. See you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Byte. You can find the show notes at thebyte.io and follow me on Twitter at I Do My Own Tricks.